Hello, and welcome to the Wedding Dish Podcast. Grab your fork and knife and take a seat at our table as we dish on all things weddings. You'll hear stories and tips from real couples and wedding pros about life, love, and entrepreneurship. Let's dish.
That's Sara Alpin, host of The Wedding Dish and CEO of Photos from the Hardy and District.
And that is a very friendly pupper who has just been waiting for us to start the show. That couldn't hold it in any longer. But the beautiful voice you heard is my guest co-host and the producer of the Wedding Dish podcast, as well as a business owner at Mabely Q and an accessibility educator, plus just a fabulous woman, Erin Perkins. Thanks for being here. And today we have a really cool guest. I'm super excited to hear about this. You may remember a little bit about when Erin was on the episode Read My Lips, which we talked a little bit about accessibility in weddings and things. She actually referenced this wedding. So now we are going to get to hear about it firsthand. And we have Keri and Andrew November with us today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. I'm so excited to hear about your wedding. We talked a little bit about this offline before we got started, but I watched their proposal video right before we got on here and was crying during
I'm flattered.
It was so sweet. It was so sweet. Your parents were so excited. It was the best.
Very excited to be with us, and they flew in for the weekend. They were in on the whole plan, and they were just ready to show up when they needed to, and it was just wonderful.
I love that so much. So let's start from the beginning. Tell us how you two met.
I love telling the story. So we met at Sleepaway Camp. The name of the camp was Brookwood Camps, and we met when we were 13 years old. So this was back in 1997. So this, of course, reveals our age in the sun. So when we met, I was sitting alone in the canteen eating snacks by myself. I wasn't very social since I was the only deaf girl there, and they were all hearing. The reason we were both at this camp is a Jewish camp, and my parents felt very strongly about me being exposed to other people who are also Jewish. So Andy comes walking over, and I don't remember anything he said to me. I just remember he tried to make conversation, and eventually the next thing I remember is he asked me if I wanted to go for a walk. So we go outside to go for a walk, and he wanted to look for like some privacy. So we kind of walked a little bit into the woods. I know that if I told the story now, that would be creepy, but we were 13, it was innocent, nothing wrong with that. I followed him, and I noticed it's getting darker and darker, and there's no light. And I said to him, I'm 13, he's 13, keep this in mind. I can't see you. Can we go back to bed or some night? I can't read your lips anymore. So very mature 13-year-old goes back toward the light, and he's saying a few things. I still can't understand him, so I'm just nodding and smiling. And then eventually he leaned in to start kissing me. And the first thought I had was, oh no, we both have braces. I'm so concerned I'm going to get stuck, because I had never kissed anyone before, so I was very nervous. We were kissing, everything was fine. She tasted like Coca-Cola and licorice, so I remember that flavor very clearly. And then after the kiss was over, at that time, it's not like we thought of saying, oh, what's your mail address? I want to keep in touch. We just kind of went our own separate ways. And at that time, AOL had just come out, so I didn't really have a screen name, and I didn't think to ask him for a screen name. So all these years later, fast forward to 2007, I friended him on Facebook, and he gave me his email. But at that time, I had a boyfriend, so I didn't feel right responding. I just ignored his message. Fast forward to 2015, he messaged me to say happy birthday. I thought, thank you so much. And he said, oh, you're so beautiful. By the way, who are you? And I'm like, what do you mean, who am I? And I was thinking, I ignored his message again because I was so angry that he forgot me. And I was kind of drunk too. It was my birthday, and I was out drinking with friends. And then the next morning, he tried again to message me. And he said, hey, I want to try this again. I really want to figure out who you are. And I said, okay, I think you remember my last name. I changed my name on Facebook so that my students at the time would find me on Facebook, and I wanted to keep my name hidden. So I had my first and my middle name on Facebook, not my last name. I told him what my last name was, and he said, oh, are you that? You were my first kiss. And I said, yes, you were my first kiss too. So then I'm trying to think what happened next. So then we talked for maybe 2 weeks, every day, all day. When he was at work, his boss was very flexible, letting him talk to me, to catch up with me. And then he told me he had to come to New York for work in 2 weeks. And I thought, oh, wow, that's so great how that works out. So I said, yes, let's go out on a date. So we spent the entire day together, Saturday, I think it was Saturday. And then we met in front of the hotel, and we walked around, we sat in Starbucks, I went back to the hotel to change. And then we went to a restaurant for dinner. And we had our first kiss all over again at the restaurant near the coat rack. And of course, that kiss was very special because we had already experienced life. So that was an amazing kiss. So much chemistry, which is wonderful. And then we became official pretty quickly after that. And then 6 months into our relationship, I found out that he really did not have work. He made it up just to get me to say yes, because he was concerned that I was going to worry about what his expectations were, flying all the way to take me out on a date. So it's a good move.
Oh my
And by the way, I remember Keri telling me about all of this, like when she first started seeing Andy again. I was like, all right, okay, cool.
Yeah, Erin, what was your interpretation of that?
Well, no, I thought it was actually like texting me the first time saying like he's coming out to visit, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. Most guys don't do that, but like make sure we know where you're at all times, just in case. But like everything went really well. So it's like, all right, so when can we meet him? That kind of deal.
That is exactly what I would think. So maybe I should rewind and explain that, why I asked that question, because Erin is my co-host today, but she's also a lifelong friend of Keri. How long have you known each other?
We actually met when?
We met, I think in 2012.
2012. We met at a beer festival actually, and we clicked like that. I was like, I rescued her from some other people that she didn't like. So yeah.
An old one that I did not want to be friends with anymore. So I'm very happy that she saved me.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I never asked how you met before. So that's really fun. I love that. As I'm sure you know, Keri, and I'm sure you can tell, Erin is one of my and Andrew, Erin is one of my very favorite people in the whole world. So I love that. That's such a sweet story. Andrew, you are brilliant. I am
But that's the
very,
vibe you took, because now I'm hearing it again, and I was like leading her into the woods and then just showing up in New York. I was like, I think Erin had a good reason to be a little cautious of this guy. Last time I saw him was in the woods, and now he's in the city. So see where this night goes.
But 13-year-old leading me into the woods of the poetry, and a grown man leading me into the woods.
Yeah,
Just do one.
exactly. Exactly. So,
that's amazing. So at the time, Andrew, where were you living?
So I was living in Cleveland. I had been married and I was getting divorced at the time. My ex-wife had moved out the year prior, and just doing what any single person was doing. I had on some of the dating apps and on Facebook, and the reason why I messaged her finally, because I was on Facebook and I had been looking, and she had been posting pictures, as we all do. And her friend Mally had taken some professional looking pictures that were just gorgeous. And I had looked at, you could see you see our friendship. And it said we had been friends since '05, but had zero friends in common. And this was 2015. And
We debated if it's 05 or 07.
so, anyways, I thought that was very unusual to be friends with someone for so long, but have no friends in common at all. It's just like, this doesn't seem right. So that's when I finally got the courage to message her on her birthday and use the happy birthday as kind of, just an easy, again, going my theme to not be creepy message. So, not sure how well I'm coming off so far in this podcast.
Well, your proposal made me cry, so at least you had that padding on the.
Looking back, there are some interesting decisions on my part, but it worked out very well.
So for his proposal, he told me the next day he actually had more planned that he wanted to sign. He had practiced signing the entire proposal with my friend Maria, who's a sign language teacher. Erin also knows Maria. And he was just so excited to propose. He really only signed a little bit. He said most of it, but then signed a little bit in the end. But it was just so sweet. And he showed me what he really wanted to sign. I said, it doesn't matter. I just wanted, I would have been happy to start emailing me. I'd be like, yeah, that's all I would really wanted. I was just waiting for so long at that point. I'm very excited. Very sweet.
I do want to highlight to our audience that Keri herself is deaf, as well as Erin, myself, and Andy is hearing. So he's actually made a lot of effort to learn sign to be able to communicate with Keri throughout the relationship as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's fluent enough that we can argue in sign language, unfortunately.
Hey.
Fortunately and unfortunately, because if I'm mad and I don't want to talk about something, or I'm like, forget it, he can sign everything that he needs, and I'm like,
The things that you don't expect.
The most important is being able to emphasize with your movements, your emotions. And I was like, oh wow, I'm getting really good at sign when I can son, I'm really mad at you right now. Look at me when I sign to you. That's her move. She'll turn away and I'll be like, no, watch me.
Oh
to be fair, that means you can actually argue in public without people knowing what you guys are arguing about. So
not really, because it's very clear we're angry if we argue in public, so we try not to.
But people won't know the topic.
They see that.
I think it draws more attention to like this ferocious signing, what is happening over at that table.
Because it gets a lot faster.
It does get a lot faster.
And you really can't sign without showing your feeling.
Right.
There's so much in the face, and I'm very expressive. to begin
Yeah,
with.
I actually think he's more expressive than I am.
I mean, he had really good eyebrows.
Oh yeah,
So.
you know
Yeah, you have great outfit.
I like to think of sign language as almost like a dance because it's like your whole body is kind of like involved and engaged.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So when we fight,
Yeah.
it's an angry dance.
There you go. Hey, I do want to dish about the actual wedding. So when and where did you guys get married?
So we got married October 9th, 2016. We got married at the Westin, which is in downtown Cleveland. And well, the wedding, we had hired 2 sign language interpreters to sit facing the audience. And then I had my own personal interpreter standing in front of me for the wedding ceremony. And then we also had a cop typist that typed everything at the wedding. And if people didn't know sign, they could bring up the caption on their phone. They didn't have to sit in a specific location. They could sit wherever they wanted. So all types of accessibility that we could think of was provided. And then during the reception, this didn't really work out too well, but we made the best of it that we could. We expected the music to be captioned, but that ended up not working. So it was really behind. So we did the best we could to figure out what song was playing, and then he would tell me, which song was playing so that I could try and listen to the music, because I can kind of recognize music if I study the lyrics ahead of time. If I don't, then I'm not going to know what the song is. But I knew what songs were playing because I picked out all the songs, so that helps me. And all of the deaf people that were there, they did have access to the music because there was so many hearing people that knew sign. Some of them were interpreting, some of them were signing and speaking at the same time. So there was a lot of different accommodations going on during the reception.
Yeah. So when you guys planned the wedding and you had guests, like how many guests did you have, and what was the main thing that you felt like would come up? Because I know what it's like trying to combine, bring together hearing and deaf world. That's like a really huge challenge for a lot of us who happen to marry a hearing partner when you're deaf. How did you figure out what you wanted to do?
It wasn't a question of providing accommodation, because luckily I knew enough interpreters that were willing to do the wedding. They all actually said that they would do it for free as a gift, which is very nice. We had offered to pay them, but they all, 2 of them reduced the fee, and then one, who's my best friend, said it was her wedding gift to us. My parents didn't question whether or not to do interpreter. They knew that my guests were going to be deaf, and some didn't know sign, that they would need caption. And we were very fortunate. Our typist also said she would do it as a gift to us, so that was very nice. I'm trying to think. We made sure that the lighting was light enough for people at the rehearsal dinner and the wedding as well, so because that people needed to be light enough that we can read lips.
Yeah. We also had something that I learned in the New York, New Jersey area, which is not really done in Cleveland, was we had a DJ, but they brought a drummer with him, which was, I recommend for every wedding that's going to get a DJ, pay the extra to get a drummer, because one, is just fun to watch and to see this drummer play along, but it really gave that extra oomph to, bring the music into people who, a lot of deaf people, would want to.
Yeah, we could feel the beat because of the drummer.
So that was another, I think, a hearing and deaf accommodation that really added to the music experience.
Oh, and I'm remembering now, the deaf tables had the short flowers, hearing tables had the tall flowers, But what was funny was some of the older hearing women saying like they're moved it because they wanted to be able to see their friend. So I guess we should have just gone with these short flowers if we were to do it again.
One thing I do remember when we were at the rehearsal the night before the wedding, there was a lot of communication with the venue, House of Blues, I believe, was to make sure they didn't dim the light, and they actually did dim the light, and we're like, whoa, turn the light back on, because we started not being able to see each other, and they were like, oh, I think it was just habit to dim the light, and it's like really having to communicate with the venue and being like, I know it's habit to do this, but you can't do that because people need to be able to see each other. So.
Right. Yeah, it was very bright in the end once they fixed it. So I think there was enough light for the deaf people and for the older people. Because I've noticed a lot of older people, when they go to the restaurant, they use a flashlight for the menu. So I'm sure they were very grateful.
Yeah, I would think so. That's a huge thing to my mom. She's like, that was one of the things at my wedding. She was not happy that they had assured us it would be light enough that she could see, and it was not. And that is, we were just saying this, but just to reiterate, like one of the reasons that it's important to have that lighting is not so that because it's not just signing with your hands, it's facial expressions, it's movements, and it changes the way that you're interacting. So the lighting is actually very important for a variety of reasons. So I just wanted to make sure that that we acknowledged that too, because and that is really funny. My mom also requested that we not have tall flowers on our tables because she said that's a problem for her at weddings.
Yeah. I think in all, when it comes to wedding and stuff like that, I mean, I know people, lighting needs to be dim, but at Keri and Andrew's wedding, I never once felt like, this is not a intimate environment, where it never felt like I was in like fluorescent light. No, there was still a mood, there was still an environment. It was just different, right? It wasn't like dark where you're like, oh God, I can't see anybody, and you have your beer goggles on. It like concept with lighting, it makes everyone look good. I still think everyone looked pretty damn good at this wedding. I mean, this was like a top-notch dress wedding.
Yeah,
that was my favorite dress. Yeah.
I can tell from the pictures that it looked really good. And also, like, your pictures are awesome because you had really good lighting. And I think that's something people forget when they're wedding planning. Like, that's, if you have to heavily rely on a flash for the photography, it flattens things. So when I was looking at these, I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't have this information prior, but looking at your photos, I was like, they did a really good job with that lighting.
So one other detail I thought of during the wedding, we told people, the officiant told people, please don't use your phone unless you're using it for caption, because we didn't want people to all have their phones out taking photos, texting.
Yeah.
Because I had a feeling that if they saw how many people were looking at their phone, I was concerned that it would deter them from the actual wedding ceremony. And when they explained, if you're utilizing the phone for the caption, that's fine. But if you're not, please do not use your phone. So I thought that was a big help.
That's really smart. And also, it forces people to be a little bit more engaged in the moment. And again, from the photography standpoint, there is nothing worse than having everybody's faces, instead of getting their reaction, their faces behind a phone or an iPad. And it's in the background of, yeah, exactly, Erin. Erin just held her phone up in front of her face. And, if your phone is like this color and it's between the bride and groom, I know I'm holding up this turquoise sign that says, "Ask me about my dog." I now realize. But if it's a really bright, like orange or neon pink or something, and it's between the bride and groom, it's really difficult to deal with in photos from the photography standpoint. So for a ton of different reasons, I definitely would recommend considering having what people call an unplugged ceremony. So that, yeah.
Oh, for our first look, he told me the day before he had a surprise for me, and I kept asking what's your surprise, and I was a little worried because I didn't know if it was gonna be like a crazy jacket or something. So I was happy because it was cufflinks with the "I love you" symbol, and I just lost it when he showed it to me, and it was captured in the pictures as well as in the video. It was very sweet.
I love that. I love you are a very thoughtful human, Andrew. You little details do not escape you.
Right.
Yeah.
I love
So
that.
do you
That's
guys
amazing.
have any favorite moment from your wedding that has made that really stand out for you?
I would say my favorite moment was the first dance. I mean, I wasn't really happy with how I danced, but I enjoyed that moment together, having the first dance, and the time that we had in between the wedding and the reception. We actually were able to eat upstairs. We happened to bring all the food from the cocktail hour upstairs to eat.
Yeah.
And then
The cocktail hour food, epic. I mean,
it was so good. And then we actually were able to nap for 45 minutes. So I actually was able to sleep on my wedding day. And then we went down to reception, and then I felt like I had more energy to dance the rest of the night.
I have.
But you gave 2 reasons, and your second took mine. So fair. But I was going to say something thoughtful that I thought my favorite time at the wedding was when we weren't even at the wedding. It was really great. These hotel staff, I mean, so many thank yous to them for really making that special. We had a beautiful room up on the top floor, so the room was gorgeous anyways. And they brought all the food and the drinks up there, so we had like our own like private catered celebration, and we drank those margarita. I think you spilled your margarita on me.
And that's nice.
And then we drank what was left, and we got drunk, and that's why we fell asleep for like 45 minutes. And they came knocking to come get us to go down there. But that was definitely my highlight, that time in that room. It's just like knowing there's like this big event going on down there, but having all the drinks and the effects in that room, that was
because it's about us really getting married. It's the 2 of us starting a life, so it's nice to have that moment with him.
Yeah, I mean, the rest of the wedding was really being part of other people's moments, and it was fun, but it's not your moment. Like we were, you're in basically every photo booth picture. You're pulled in for one of them. So we spent a lot, and that was a ton of fun, but you're constantly starting and getting a little bit into a conversation before you're pulled away to something else. So that's why it goes so quickly.
I forgot about the photo booth. That's right. That was so amazing. I loved the photo booth, and I loved seeing everyone's pictures in the photo booth. Erin and Hector had an amazing photo booth picture. Hector wearing a crown.
Yeah.
And I forgot, what were you wearing? Was it some kind
I don't know, but Hector had like the crown. That's like one of my favorite pictures. with the clown. He's so good. And I had no idea that you guys actually napped for 45 minutes. That I think is pretty cool, right?
Yeah, I mean, cocktail hour was an hour, and they whisked us right away, and like everything was just there. I'm getting very nostalgic about that right now. That was awesome.
Well,
I felt like cocktail hour lasted like a really long time, like
Maybe
not
because
just
we
an
couldn't find
hour, but
so long. They're like, well, keep drinking because Keri and Andrew disappeared.
Yeah, maybe that's why it lasted so long because we were
Right
sleeping
there.
and they were like, well, the wedding got
I definitely thought someone woke us up knocking on the door. I will clearly remember that. Get back to your wedding.
I mean, can you imagine if both were deaf, like you never hear the door knock? You
Oh
would
yeah, I
keep
didn't think of it as that.
saying,
Someone would have had to like let themselves in to wake us up.
Interesting.
yeah.
oh my God.
And then some of your friends decorated the room once
That's
they
right.
left. That was another memory.
Yeah, I remember that.
We both bought pillowcases that said Mr. and Miss, and they decorated the whole bed with rose petals and white string and white ribbons, and it was beautiful. So they were able to sneak up while we were downstairs. Very special. I still have the pillowcases. I keep wanting to use
Nice.
it again, but not yet. Maybe for our fifth wedding anniversary, I'll bring this summer wherever we go.
Sounds good.
If we go somewhere.
I love that. I have never heard of a couple napping on their wedding day.
I made it happen.
It sounds like really great advice to recommend to couple to building that time.
I was sure to think about nap time actually because I need my naps and I wanted to enjoy my wedding day. So I'm sorry to Erin, the other guests who were waiting for the reception.
I'm sure
But
they were
we-
fine, enjoying the
We
open
had
mic.
fun.
They kept themselves occupied.
You fed us really well. You kept our drinks, like the drinks were like on par, like the music, like we look all good.
Definitely eat during that time because now I'm thinking about it. I don't feel like I really ate dinner because again, getting like pulled away. Like definitely a ton
Yeah.
of appetizer because we were alone. But like I remember I asked them if they could give me both entrees and they did. I wanted to try both, and I don't even think I got to eat them in the end.
And then I enjoyed our signature cocktail drink. It was called the November Rita because I like spicy margaritas. So they made that our special drink, and I loved it. Yeah, it was
That's
so
what
good.
you spilled on there. That's what you spilled on.
There, I have no shade to throw at you. I spilled an entire beer on my husband on like our second or third date. So
Oh, you say I love you. Like you're mine now. I got claimed.
Love it.
But luckily, you didn't have a completely white dress.
No,
It
just
was like-
rolled up.
Yeah, dark suit,
A
so it
dark
was
dress on.
easy to like get it out. Thank God.
did you just say I had a dark dress on?
I just saw Keri just like completely bypass that, and I signed it. I didn't just say it.
I saw that too. She was like, I'm not acknowledging he said that.
I love you. Yeah.
Love it so much. Is there anything that you would, if you were to go back and do it again, that you would change about your wedding day?
Yeah. The entrance, I was frustrated with our grand entrance because I expected to be like open, but instead when I walked in, I had to like go in between a pole and a table and like this much space. So I'm like kind of like into I'm like dancing and then I'm going like this trying to get through these people and then to the dance floor. So if I could do it again, I would have asked, where are we entering? Because the doors on the other side had a lot more of a grand entrance and more open. There was no table blocking it. So, and I would have asked the DJ to tap the caption with the music before the wedding started.
That makes
naturally Keri was more involved in planning, so probably not totally me to armchair quarterback that answer here. But I mean, I agree the entrance was complex, although we were pretty light on our feet. I mean, we were navigating around like those uplights and things, so it was kind of tricky to get in. But no, I mean, I thought it was a wonderful wedding. I've been to a lot of weddings. It was a great wedding. I don't have any. I can't think of anything I would.
Would you have wanted the pictures to be shorter? Because that was a long time doing all those photos.
It was before the wedding. I'm glad about that. Not having a big picture thing during the wedding was really great, because then I think you're removed. I've been involved in a wedding party where you just get removed and it's like, I want to be at the wedding, and we're just like standing. That's not fun for anyone. Unless you can get people. One wedding I did that in, I liked it. They brought food and drinks, but that takes a lot of planning. That's it's a lot of people to get on the same page, and that can go wrong quickly.
Technically, we didn't have a bridal party. We just had our family walk down the aisle. So I didn't have bridesmaids. He didn't have groomsmen. Because I felt like as an older bride, I didn't want to deal with that and care about having a bachelorette and all of that. So all of that was skipped. We had pictures all morning. I enjoyed all those photos, but at the same time, got up very early for that. I got up at 7 a.m. to start taking all those photos of different locations. That's part of why I needed a nap, because it was so long with the photos.
It was long, but I guess I expected it. Mm-hmm. Just seemed like it had to happen. So I smiled.
I think that's one of the, as a wedding photographer, that's one of the things that I plan the most vigorously so that we can get through it. And I make it like The Price is Right, where it's like, come on down, and just try to like shuffle everybody through. But it can take so long. So that is definitely something to like consider. I've also had nightmare situations where they brought chicken teriyaki and red shots out to the couple, and Erin, you don't know this story. I've never told you this. So they brought red shots and chicken teriyaki, the worst things you can spill on someone wearing white. And they brought them out. The wedding parties were already drunk. And so, of course, down both sides of the bride's dress, immediately the red shots. And then while the guy's apologizing, the one guy's apologizing, and I'm, shout wiping it out. Shout wipes are your best friend if you are a spiller. I have tons of them. So I got it out, but he dropped chicken teriyaki down the back of her dress, and it bounced all the way down the train.
Oh gosh.
It was so bad.
But the any luck getting it out?
I got it out, but it was like an hour and a half long trying to do the photos, because I'm the photographer, like cleaning the dress.
So just like white, non-greasy food is the rule. So it's like, here's and that's it.
Yeah.
Not even crumbly cheese, just solid pieces of cheese.
Yeah. Things that are easy to eat with your hands that do not leave a mark. White wine is also good.
Wine and vodka, nothing else.
Yeah, vodka's a good option.
It'll get the stains out in case you somehow manage to get a stain.
That's true. That's very true.
Pictures are just hard. I think it's lose-lose for everyone. As a photographer, you also have to become like a behavior management specialist. And you can't really, force it too hard. And then everyone's hungry. So, it's an impossible feat to do it.
Yeah.
All the different combinations, like you in, you out, it's hard.
And there's always inevitably somebody that they like is like a girlfriend but not engaged, so then they like don't want to include them, but they don't want to leave, so then they pull me aside to have this quiet conversation with me about it, and I'm like, I asked this in the questionnaire 2 months ago.
Yeah. We have one of those in our pictures, so it's just reality,
Yeah, I mean, usually I have the person in for one and then have them step out for
we all know
another.
this is how this is gonna end, so just step aside for
Yeah. We want to make sure it's easy for you to lift out of the family.
just in case.
All the things you have to consider when having a wedding. It's so many different moving parts.
Massive moving parts.
I love all of the things that you all did. I love the idea of a drummer. I've never considered that. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about, because I don't want to speak for you on this as a hearing person, the experience of having the drummer, like why that made it cooler for you as opposed to just DJ.
Well, like I said, I had never seen the drummer until going to weddings in the New York area, and as a hearing person, it just added so much more dimension to the music. It's really an engaging thing, and it's just neat to see because the drummer can drum along to any song, and you're almost watching the drummer create it. Figuring out a way to adapt. I'm not a musician at all, so to me, I just jaw dropped the first time I saw it, and then I think most hearing people I see approach Keri are like, oh, you feel the music, right? That's just like so baked into like hearing culture that every hearing person just assumes that all deaf people can feel it. And I guess to some extent, I won't speak on that. That's what, Keri and Erin can talk about. But, it seemed like it was well accepted and people liked it. So it was great. And in defense of the captions, I think the DJ did a great job trying to accommodate. They had actually captioned all of their music, and then the system had crashed. So what they did, which was pretty amazing, looking back, is they found all the captions on YouTube. And they had to sync YouTube captions to the music. So what was interesting as a hearing person, I could actually hear they worked so hard slowing down the music, speeding it up to sync in with the YouTube video. So you'd be listening to the song like, either this song is really slow or I'm getting a little drunk, because like you could just hear subtle changes in the music, but it was them trying to time it with the YouTube. So yeah, unfortunately the captions didn't work as intended, but to all credit to Rock the House Entertainment here in Cleveland, they hustled for the entire night to line up YouTube lyrics to that music.
I forgot that what they ended up doing in the end. I couldn't remember exactly what had happened. That's right.
That is so crazy.
I will say that as the person who attended the wedding, it was very much like it was nice because there were like other hearing people that did sign at the same time. But like, this is one of the things that if I ever meet a DJ, I do recommend, because I know I'm like, hey, like you should do caption, because a lot of people actually like able to read the lyrics because half the time you don't realize you don't know the words. Right? I mean, like I've always been big on knowing the lyrics, like no matter what. So that to me was like really one of my favorite experiences.
You make a good point, because when I think about some of my hearing friends, if I ask them what the music right now, what song playing right now, and I ask them, can you mouth the word for me? And they're like, no, the chorus, but then the rest of the word are like, and then the chorus again. So even hearing people don't always seem to know the words too.
True.
I think I've told Erin this, but the Creedence Clearwater song Bad Moon Rising. when I was little, and this is just an example of one of the million songs I do this with. I was convinced that it said, don't go out tonight because you're bound to lose your life. There's a bathroom on the right.
That's funny.
I think we all have songs like that. I don't really know the words well, so captions have definitely taught me. I'm like, oh, that's the lyric. I did not know.
It's funny how much stuff you miss people saying, and when you actually are aware and turn captions on, like how much clearer things are.
I could never watch TV without captions now because I've been watching so much TV for so many years now. When I'm at places and they're not on, it feels like something's missing. And I absolutely agree. You learn so much more, and about who the character is. Sometimes they'll identify maybe like an ambiguous character, and definitely you see more speech than you can hear. If you're like me at least. So yeah, I love captions, and I think right now, like we're looking at captions on Zoom, the technology is really progressing fast, especially over the past year for captions, and definitely, and certainly more of a climate of accessibility. Things online are, of course, they have a long way to go, but are improving. I think TikTok has been the big motivator of people making captioned instructional videos, which is great to see. So I think, like Erin said, if you guys can have everyone keep educating DJs, having captioned music is certainly a possibility in the future with this auto generation.
Right.
Yeah, and it makes such a huge difference. And we host workshops and things, and I turn the captions on, and then later someone will come back and say, I missed some of the stuff that people were saying, but because of the captions, like I actually retained the information and didn't totally miss out. Which is, it's also just a way that people learn. So it makes us all better to have those capabilities, because you're addressing, first of all, it's the right thing to do, right? Like that's the why all podcasts should be accessible. Erin should be speaking in front of millions of people, educating them on how to be better. She is constantly helping me understand and adapt. I thought I was doing captions right for a long time, for probably 3 weeks when Zoom started adapting. And then I realized that Erin was just taking over and fixing it when I did it wrong every time. She just didn't tell me. I was like, this is so much easier now the way they have it set up. But it's, we all learn differently. We all retain things differently. So it's not even just someone that is deaf or hard of hearing. It is, people who just learn better by reading too.
Right.
It has been slow going, getting things to be more accessible. But I am really relieved that there are ways that Zoom has gotten accessible and that things are seeming to catch up a little bit better, at least from my standpoint. Erin, you can correct me if I'm wrong. You know a lot about accessibility.
No, I
obviously.
think Zoom has been doing. I think they moved slowly during the pandemic, and it was like, hello, like we've been in the pandemic for almost an entire year before they made it free.
Yeah.
For everyone. Before you had to pay to be able to have the captioning capability, and it was like, what? Why make people pay for it? There was definitely something wrong with that.
Yeah,
that aspect. Yeah,
that's another thing that always is a big bummer to me, when they're like, oh, we can't do captioning unless you are upgrading to like X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, this is a basic need. I wouldn't charge someone a toll to use a ramp. That's that's always my response to people. Erin and I are very bulldoggy about about people we care about it and making sure that they are well taken care of.
we're the same way in terms of how we advocate as well. He's a disability litigator, so he has deaf clients in addition to his other clients. And I've become more involved in advocating as well since we've gotten married. An example of how we've been advocating recently is we've been volunteering to help people as well as deaf people register for the vaccine, because a lot of them struggle with understanding instructions in English, and ESL, for most of them, is their first language. So I would do my best to have them register and explain the instruction to them and how to get an interpreter for the appointment, so on and so forth.
Yeah. Medical stuff during the pandemic is one of the things that's upset me the most for Erin. So I'm really glad to hear that you're doing that. I actually bought Erin a mask after she had a bad experience at a doctor's office where they were like frantically gesturing. She doesn't know, she can't see their mouth because they're in masks. You know what, like, and so I bought her a mask that was like really pretty and says I'm deaf, so that she doesn't have anybody like frantically coming at her at a doctor's appointment or something. Like that just, that it like gives me goosebumps to think about how I would feel in that situation.
Yeah, it has been very difficult for a lot of us. I had to buy a bunch of clear masks and clear shields just to have for anyone that I may need to communicate with indoors. And it's been very helpful being able to give these masks out so that people can wear them so they can read their lips. For example, I saw my brother a few weeks ago, and he bought a bunch of clear masks so that I could communicate with him in different scenarios, and that was very helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not the deaf people that need the clear mask, it's the hearing people that need the clear mask.
Right.
Yep.
That's a big thing that I saw happening with Erin. I saw a lot of people were sending her things like clear masks, and she's like, I don't need this. The rest of the world does.
I think every deaf person kept getting messages sent to them from the hearing friend and family, like, hey, I'm like, that's not for me, that's for you.
Right.
But are you not understanding the logic behind this? So yeah, I think it'll be a long time before the world adapts to that concept. But yeah,
it is interesting because you think of it backward as a hearing person, and when you have it called forward to you, it's like, how did I not realize all of these things? How have I not thought of these things before? But you know, it's just like, which is why what Erin is doing is fabulous, and which is one of the reasons what you all are doing is fabulous too, is advocating, but just educating, like without judgment, is so important, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I am so glad that we were able to have you on the podcast today. I can obviously see why Erin loves you too.
Thank you. I love you, Evan.
I love you too.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for sharing your wedding story. This was such a fun thing to discuss, especially because, you know, we had heard about it from Erin's point of view as the guest at your wedding, who really enjoyed all of these things that you did. And I heard about it from Hector too, actually, when we were discussing it. And Hector is Erin's husband, who is a hearing person. And he also really enjoyed all of the things as well. So it seems like it was a really lovely event for everyone that attended, and you got a freaking nap in the middle of it.
I didn't know that was a luxury, so now I'm like even more happy that it happened. I'm like, wow, we got that.
We're very lucky you made it happen.
Totally.
I love it. And now everyone else who's listening knows that it's possible and can make it happen for themselves.
We're gonna build in that timeline right there.
All weddings just got 45 minutes longer.
Yeah.
I love it. Well,
Exactly.
thank you so much, everyone, for tuning into The Wedding Dish. Thank you, Keri and Andrew, for being here, and my amazing co-host, Erin. If you do want to continue to learn about accessibility, and especially if you all are podcasters out there, Erin has specific resources for you. Where can they find you online, Erin?
They can find me at mabelyq.com or on Instagram at mabely_Q. That's MABELY_Q. And thanks for having me.
I always am happy to have you. I invite you to ghost in on all of the podcast episodes, but this is the first one you've taken me up on this season.
I know.
And if you all haven't started following The Wedding Dish yet, please do so on Instagram. We are at The Wedding Dish Podcast, and follow, rate, and review The Wedding Dish on your preferred podcast platform. Next week, we have another amazing guest coming on, and I'm super excited about it. So thank you all for tuning in. Have a wonderful rest of your night. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.